The zodiac sign of Libra excerpted from the book Nuova Guida all'Astrologia by Ciro Discepolo, Volume 1, Earth sign, cardinal masculine positive, ruled by Venus. Period. September 23rd to October 25. Libra is the seventh sign of the zodiac, spanning from 180 to 210 degrees. With it begins the nocturnal zone of the zodiac, the half comprised between autumn and winter. We find ourselves in the 30 degrees facing Aries, and the general references we are about to analyze are also polar to that sign. Libra is to Aries what the socket is to the plug, the lock to the key, or the screen to the image. The realm of this Venus-ruled sign is one of passivity, sweetness, harmony, aesthetics, the search for balance, diplomacy, availability, openness, sociability, charm, courtesy, and a will for accommodation. The French astrologer Régis Bastide compares the sign to the image of a pink sunset in Tuscany during autumn. Muted colors, lukewarm atmospheres, and middle tones. Libra begins with the autumn equinox, September 23rd, when the hours of light equal those of darkness within a day. This illustrates the core principle at the heart of Libran symbology, the principle of balance, represented precisely by the two scales. The Venus that rules this sign is not the same as the one reigning over Taurus. The latter is charged with sensuality, lust for enjoyment, and satisfaction in fullness. The former, instead, is the gentle emblem of femininity understood in the most fragile, delicate, and vulnerable sense of the term. It is the Venus that translates into the image of Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary, a rose petal that might wither in the cold, or the symphonies of Mozart. The equation Libra. Romanticism seems mandatory, as does Libra and so passivity, given the exile of Mars and the fall of the Sun. Representatives of this sign usually behave like people standing on the balcony of their own lives, watching their destiny unfold without intervening. It is truly rare for a Libra to face their problems with decisiveness and intervene forcefully to solve them. It is more frequent for them to evaluate a problem at length and, when faced with the need for a radical choice, ultimately decide on a maybe, an I. In the psychological mechanism determining this attitude, the fundamental elements of the Libran temperament stand out: the rulership of Venus, the exaltation of Saturn, the fall of the Sun, and the exile of Mars. The first is responsible for a fundamental indolence that drains enthusiasm from action and stimulates relaxation, waiting, and passivity. The second is a factor of strong rationality that pushes one to face every problem according to logic. Every single case is evaluated in all its nuances. Pros and cons are considered. Possible consequences are weighed 100 times, and the question is balanced on the two scales, in a long series of considerations that risks never ending. Even after an answer arrives, the questioning continues. Did I do well or poorly? Wouldn't it have been wiser to wait a bit longer? And so on. The fall of the Sun and the exile of Mars testify to a lack of will, character, and personality, without which decisions are slow to arrive. Probably the greatest flaw of Libras is precisely this lack of backbone, never deciding, always tending to delay choices. This results in them rarely occupying prominent positions in society, positions that require not only ambition but also an aptitude for command and the capacity for rapid resolutions. Libra is usually behind the scenes, in median positions at equatorial latitudes, neither first nor last. They do not stand out precisely because of this lack of defined traits. Their most pressing inner problem is the attempt to reconcile two divergent inner natures, the sentimental and the rational. Once again, we find the direct clash between Venus and Saturn. The former wishes for them to live according to romantic, genuine, and somewhat childish impulses. The latter, by contrast, makes its censorious, limiting, and castrating presence felt. As with other signs, one often finds a reversal of values in Libra due to compensation. In this case, it can make the subject particularly irritable and aggressive, especially in matters of justice or when principles they deem objectively fair are violated. Their ego is decidedly turned outward, and they conceive of life primarily as the practice of human relations at all levels, social, familial, professional, and sentimental. They are often attracted to social life, travel, entertainment, and the worlds of art and show business. In love, Libra is conditioned by form, a certain behavioral aesthetic. They hate vulgarity, and the overall atmosphere, sensitive to lighting, music, and scents. They are not a passionate type and reserve most of their energy for constructing an appreciable scenic whole, rather than throwing themselves into a relationship and letting the other person overwhelm them. They aspire to marriage, or an equivalent bond more than any other representative of the Zodiac, precisely because they are the sociable being par excellence. It is truly rare to meet an unmarried Libra. When this occurs, it is legitimate to suspect the existence of other strong values in the birth chart, such as Virgo. Conversely, it is common to find multiple sentimental chapters in the lives of those born under the seventh sign, as exemplified by the aforementioned Madame Bovary. This is partly due to the subject's inability to say no, and partly to their great availability. However, it must be noted that this availability is often misunderstood. While it is true that Libras, both women and men, give in more easily than other signs, their availability is usually limited to formal relationships and rarely crosses into intimacy. It is quite common, for example, to see Libra women constantly changing companions but maintaining intimate relations with only one of them. Regarding work, Libras are found in every sector of human activity, but rather than a direct link to specific jobs, a distinct style emerges in how they perform them. Aesthetic research is the dominant imperative, accompanied by the grace, charm, rationality, and prudence of the sign. As with Gemini, all public relations work is highly indicated, with the added advantage of personal charm. A career in diplomacy seems ideal for the native. Also highly suitable are activities in beauty care, fashion, interior design, jewelry, art dealing, the judiciary, law, and the police. Many Libras are found in show business, gaining popularity more for physical beauty and charm than for raw talent. As noted, relatively few occupy key positions in society, while many are found in clerical roles. From a pathological standpoint, Libra is related to the kidneys, which often suffer as the final outlet for existential problems the native cannot resolve. Generally, however, they enjoy decent health, standing out neither for an excess of pathology nor for great psychological strength. Frequent ailments include kidney stones, lumbago, bladder problems, diabetes, ovarian cysts, and psychosomatic disorders linked to prolonged anxiety. The Libra man is not exactly what one thinks of when saying the one who wears the pants at home. He often links with energetic women to whom he gladly leaves the leadership of the family and with whom he rarely reaches a point of frontal collision. He is accommodating by nature, and his bonds rarely fail. Fidelity is not his forte. He often collects sentimental adventures, which in his case serve as recreation, and rarely acquire enough substance to threaten the primary relationship. He does not take major existential risks because he is prudent, though some might call his life a bit monotonous or lacking spice, and he is prone to indolence and should be encouraged to practice sports. The Libra woman is usually beautiful and well-proportioned, especially if Libra, Leo, or Taurus is at the ascendant, ASC. Her innate grace combined with elegance and style often causes men to fall in love at first sight. However, after the initial impact of charm, many are disappointed by the lack of salt and pepper inside the beautiful frame. The Libra woman lacks the diabolical charm of Scorpio, the sensuality of Pisces, or the tenderness of Cancer. She possesses only, and for many this is plenty, charm, grace, harmony, and a doll-like sweetness. Her home is often a bazaar of stuffed animals, dolls, collages, handmade ornaments, and colorful curtains. Among her books one frequently finds the poems of Prévert and escapist novels, alongside social commitment themes if her innate sense of justice has been channeled towards civil or political consciousness. In such cases, we find the classic suffragette very combative and active. She loves keeping her house in order but feels aversion toward dirty or heavy labor. She needs to work and be around people. If forced into isolation, for example due to a partner's jealousy, she may be tempted by a flight into adultery, toward which she feels a partially conscious fascination. The Libra child is usually beautiful and graceful, often raised like a doll regardless of gender. They tend to idealize others and can be easy prey for peers they see in a mythical light. They are very inclined toward social relations, so participation in parties, group meetings, and group summer trips should be encouraged. They have artistic talent and should be guided toward a satisfying form of expression from an early age. Music can also be a valid outlet for their creative energy. On the level of preventive defenses, it is good to strengthen their individuality and place them in conditions where they must make autonomous decisions, something that represents their Achilles heel. The compensated Libra. No one can be as hard and aggressive as a compensated Libra. In most cases, these are people who deliberately and lucidly seek out every possible occasion for a brawl. They have war in their blood, and their lives are characterized by furious arguments, abrupt breaks in relationships, and almost always long legal disputes for which they seem to feel an innate pleasure. They rarely manage to keep friends for long, and often break even with the closest family members, ending up at war with everyone and everything. Many times they are needlessly hostile and warmongering, even when there's absolutely no reason. In politics, they are the most exasperated militants, but they are also found amongst sports ultras, or troublemakers in general. Some particularly significant subjects of Libra from the collection in the appendix, numbers 1, 12, 31, 35, 37, 41, 43, 46, 47, 50, 51, 56, 57, 61, 70. Brigitte Bardot, 81. Jimmy Carter, 94. M.K. Gandhi, 97. Albert Schweitzer, 98. Henry Kissinger, 100. Paul 66.